They're called lightning bolts, so I should just make it quick. The dynamic duo of noise rock, the Dual Bryans, which sounds a bit like a Ratchet and Clank weapon, didn't just knock it out of the park, they mowed a big fuck off into the park, probably visible from the moon. The previous albums by Lightning Bolt showed a lot of abrasive ear candy textures for what was really just bass and drums clattering about. The same sort of energy as a rabid possum browsing the kitchenware shelves at No Leeming. I'd like to refer to two of my favourite albums by them. Ride the Skies was a bit like a psychedelic delirious fever dream, while Wonderful Rainbow felt like the most destructive morning wake-up you could ever imagine. These cult classics were recorded straight onto a 4-track, but ever since their big return on Fantasy Empire, they'd found a studio to record in, resulting in material that is ultimately more polished, but at the same time, polishing Lightning Bolt is a bit of a futile task, because they're still going to destroy your ears if you crank your volume too high. Even then, just turn it up a skosh. Sonic Citadel is the culmination of a legendary discography, and yet it still opens the skies to more opportunities, a potpourri of ways to temper the primal chaos of atonal rock music, and you know what, fuck it, let me get to the point. Sonic Citadel is one of the best things I've heard all year. From the moment that Blow to the Head began, it was an immediate rush. It was like the song began before I even pressed play. It's only a matter of time before Gibson's rollercoasting bass zips in, carrying Chippendale's manic voice along with it, channeling his anger towards a world irresponsibly vored by the large sweaty mouth of oppressive capitalist turmoil. The next track is called The USA is a Psycho, and only ironically when shouting about the rising water levels does the song begin to find itself drowning in a thicker barrage of distorted noise, the kind of grinding against your entire being that makes my teeth feel sore, but because I was a weird kid that enjoyed dentist appointments, this abrasive, intrusive shit tickles my pickle. I jokingly tweeted that this was their pop album, but is it really a joke? Is it? Listen to All Insane. It's got a hook and a melody, and I'd probably jump up and down in a big bouncy castle to it, and of course, there we go. Lightning Bolt excel on Sonic Citadel because in an unexpected move, they hone their songwriting craft more than ever, and although the prospect of following conventional structure might seem like a compromise, it doesn't detract from any real sense of spontaneity that they tend to excel at. In fact, they only compensate by getting louder and more obtuse, and having more complex rhythms, and hotboxing the atmosphere with a smokier, alarming urgency. The greater focus on vocals allows these songs to uphold refrains that you can cling onto, and in spite of the maddening drum patterns, the riffs over them are still so catchy in the end. It's a controlled onslaught and better for it, and perhaps it's down to how both Brian's musical capabilities feel so refined. Gibson's bass sounds thicker and more propulsive than ever, especially when shredding like fine cabbage, and Chippendale's drumming just literally hits different. That set just has more impact than usual, especially when it comes to that sweet, sweet snare. Not just hammering full time, but actually taking a brief vacation before being able to return to the commute with what feels like most motivated and impact than ever. This motivation keeps the climax of Hüsker Dön't propelling forward at full speed, in spite of the underlying sadness that begins to foghorn underneath it, like a warning siren telling you that things are not what they seem. It's as if the duo are wearing their hearts on their sleeves for an album that feels cathartic, but is also extremely compassionate. You only have to read the lyrics to guaranteed smash pop hit All Insane to realize they actually care about what they're saying, beyond just making dizzying patterns of percussive blaring noise. Although they've always been good at just doing that as well, so they do. Just to remind you that they can, the 9-minute Van Halen 2049. Every few seconds this one single track seems to divert into a different direction just when you thought it was sticking to one. It's such an adventure that even during the last minute, when you might think you know what to expect, they still see fit to surprise you with what sounds like the last blaring of a train whistle that you'll hear before getting smacked into. Sonic Citadel isn't just a name that Sega will probably sadly land upon in the next decade. It's also a record that still manages to sound like a complete statement in spite of not being anything concrete in particular. You just feel it in the bones that this is huge. I've been struck 7 times by a lightning bolt. I can easily survive another. That's exactly what I want to feel coming out of a fresh album by these two. The catch is that this was above and beyond, and ironically they achieve this by keeping it enclosed and to the point. I've been considering phasing numerical scores out of my videos for a while now. The only reason that I'd kept them around a little bit longer was so I could give this a 9 out of 10 just to emphasize how bloody good it is. What better way to close out the decade than to tear it to shreds? Or maybe a game of ping pong. Whatever floats your boat.